I will off my video for better connectivity.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
try with video. If there's a problem, then I will stop my video. Right now.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Huh.
Okay, sir. We are good to go. All right. Good afternoon, friends. On behalf of the
just a minute, Ketan bhai.
Yes.
Sir, શું કહે છે sir? અત્યારે hello sir, we go ahead.
Sir, you are on mute.
Yes, sir. We can go ahead.
Okay.
From my side.
Okay, Ketan.
Good afternoon, friends. On behalf of the Varachha Katargam CPE Study Circle of WIRC of ICAI, I warmly welcomes all of you, including our today's speakers, Advocate Manish Jain, who has joined from Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan from Ahmedabad. See our immediate past chairman of Surat branch of WIRC and our past convener ICAI-Surat sir, and all the members who are present over here. First of all, I would like to request our convener to play the ICAI motto song. And all members are requested to put your hand on your heart for the respect of our song.
Yaesha sukteshu jagrati, Yaesha sukteshu jagrati. Kamam Pursha Nirmimanaha Tadeva Shukram Tada Brahma Tadevamritamucchate Tasmin Lokaha Shataha Sarve Tanunatyati Kashchan Etadvaita
Thank you, friends. Friends, I would like to inform you that this is our 7th lecture on GST lecture series, and we have a total 8 GST lecture series. There is also one GST lecture is pending on next Saturday. That is on the GST on export. We have the number of topics covered, and one topic is still left out for GST registration and registration related procedure. We will try to cover in next month. Today we have the very learned speaker CA Manish Jain, a lawyer practicing in the firm in the area of indirect tax. His practice includes a mixture of litigation practice in the area of GST. We are heartily welcomes you. And for the keynote address of our today's session and for welcoming our speaker, I would like to request CA Ishwar Jivani to give the keynote address and address the today's meeting. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ketan bhai. I am very much thankful to VKCP for providing me an opportunity to interact with my own study circle members. Today's speaker, Advocate Manish Jain ji, Convener Sanjay bhai, Deputy Convener Arun bhai, and my all professional brothers. A very good evening to all of you. Today's topic, that is refund under GST laws. It is very rightly being chosen because there are many issues which are there. First is capital is blocked. Working capital is totally blocked. That's why they are running this fortnight as a refund fortnight. There are many issues with respect to inverted duty structure. In inverted duty structure, there are issues with respect to the limitation, time limitation, then input service issues. in export refund also there are many issues, and one of the issues is valuation issues. There are many issues with respect to valuation. So all these issues will be covered by our today's learned advocate Manish Bhai Jain. Apart from this, I would like to throw some light uh, on certain professional issues which are burning issues with respect to our practice. The issue is there are lot many issues with respect to undercutting of fees. Recently only one of the prominent consultant met me, and it was shocked to know that he was charging around 3 lakh rupees per annum from the clients with respect to GST audit, GST returns, income tax audit, income tax return, all those things, 3 lakhs plus accounting. And the file which was being taken by one of our CAs for only rupees 80,000. The fees that we are undercutting is very much, we should be aware about that. It will cost to us only. તો 80,000 માં આપણે કઈ રીતે એનું કોસ્ટિંગ કાઢી શકીએ? એ બી કન્સલ્ટન્ટ જ્યારે આપણને કહે ત્યારે આપણને એમ થાય કે ભાઈ આપણા પ્રોફેશનલ બ્રધર્સ ક્યાં સુધી અંડરકટિંગ કરી રહ્યા છે. હવે તમને એક વિશિયસ સર્કલ બતાવું કે આ જે અંડરકટિંગ આપણે ફીસ જે કરીએ છીએ એનું વિશિયસ સર્કલ કેવું છે. પહેલા તો હશે લેસ અમાઉન્ટ ઓફ ફીસ which will lead to less number of staff, and that will lead to less time to read and to improve ourselves, and consequently it will lead to the client to go out of our office, and then it will be a less fees. So it is a vicious circle. So we need to come out of these issues, because the less number of fees will degrade ourselves only, and we will not get quality time to improve upon certain areas like litigation areas, new practicing areas. So apart from this, I'll speak certain new opportunities which are there for CS apart from compliance practice. The first is cyber security. Due to increased use of internet kind of thing, risk has increased in manifold. So in next decade we'll have whole lot of opportunity in cyber security. There are 2 to 3 members only who are there to practice in this area in Surat, and they are having huge income from this area. So many members who are new to the profession can also take up, and if there are 2 to 3 partners, one of can take up the cyber security. There are lot many opportunities there in cyber security. Then is IBC and NCLT practice. So today we are having IBC law for corporates only, and in recent times only there has been under discussion that individuals and partnership firms will also be taken under IBC. So there will be huge opportunities in IBC, because then we will be having practice apart from NCLT with respect to DRT also we will be practicing. And third is AI. Recently in one of the seminar I learned that there are lot many issues in legal field and finance field for which we can take up the artificial intelligence. So there are lot many opportunities in artificial intelligence also. Then is delta hedging. There are many members who are doing delta hedging, and they are earning lot many money. So we are having many opportunities in delta hedging also. Then is cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, we are facing many issues with respect to income tax aspects, GST aspect, FEMA aspect. So there are gray areas with respect to what the treatment to be given to the cryptocurrency related aspects. So one can go into this practice, and Surat is a huge market for cryptocurrency. So we can provide consultancy with respect to income tax, GST, FEMA, and other aspect of cryptocurrencies. Then is reply to show cause in GST. There are many issues which are there, and they will be coming up in next 6 months to 8 months. First is input credit issue. Then is e-way issues. Then is refund issues, and the most burning issue is cross examination in case of bogus billing. So there are many, opportunity with respect to reply to show cause in GST, wherein we can charge huge amounts instead of compliance practice. Then is startup related practice. In startup related practice, you can provide consultancy services with respect to incorporation, funding, mentoring. There are many issues with respect to which you can provide startup. Recently only SGCCI is taking a call that they will ensure that there are at least 100 startup in Surat. So we can focus on this area. Then is the frauds in business have increased the scope of internal audit. So, for example, there are many, there are many units who are having 10 accountants, 12 accountants. So, there might be a scope that there will be a fraud. So, we can provide value addition with respect to the internal audit so that the fraud will not occur. And even if occur, it will be catched in earlier time. So with this, I conclude and request all the members to focus on new areas also, so that we'll having less number of competition in the new areas and to do away with the undercutting. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I request CA JS Kokharia to give the formal introduction of our today's speaker, CA Advocate Manish Jain, sir. Yes, JS.
Thank you, Ketan bhai. I'm audible, na?
Yes.
It's great privilege for me to introduce our today's speaker, Advocate Manish Jain. He has completed his BA LLB from Hidayatullah National Law University from Raipur. He is also a Bar Council member of Delhi, and Manish Jain is a lawyer practicing at the firm in the area of indirect taxes. His practice includes a mixture of litigation practice in the area of custom, excise, foreign trade policy before the tribunal and judicial authorities, and advisory practice in the area of tax, particularly custom and foreign trade policy. Manish Jain particularly experienced in the custom, FTP and GST. He has been advising to several companies on variety of issues having GST and FTP implications, such as export promotion scheme, namely advance authorization, EPCC, duty drawback, and SEZ, etc. The clients includes variety of companies from across a range of industry, including several technologies and service companies. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Now Manish Jain, floor
Thank
is
you,
yours,
sir.
sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It's a great privilege for me to be addressing to such a brilliant minds. As sir has said, Ishwar sir has said, there's a lot of opportunities for CAs. With GST, the opportunity has increased. A lot of points have been mentioned. One additional point which I want to make is, nowadays, in addition to GST, if most chartered accountants do start practicing or understand customs law and foreign trade policy, it will be a great help for them professionally. The reason is one, we have seen many chartered accountants who have clients which are big multi-corporations, big companies, they are big exporters, export house. When we advise them, when we see their transaction will be mixture of, it will have mixed implications under GST as well as under customs law. Therefore, this is very important to understand what is customs law, what are implications under customs law, what are export incentives available on export of goods and export of services, what are different schemes available for exporters. It adds value to your client, it adds value to your service. And if you add value, client is also happy to pay. Therefore, I urge one additional thing, then that maybe this forum may organize one session, one series wherein all export incentives and customs law can be briefed, can be explained to all the members, so that if issue arises, they can understand the issue and then they can discuss with experts, or they themselves can give solutions to their clients. This will be very helpful, and you will be able to retain your big clients, because if you want to retain your big clients will definitely have export orders. They'll be definitely making exports. And if third person comes and who advise them that these are export incentives available which you are not availing, then it doesn't look good for the existing consultants, and then there can be reason for switching. Therefore, one point which I feel, that there shall be expertise, and this forum can add to creating that platform, that all our consultants CAs become expert in customs law also. That is one point I want to add. Second point, sir, GST, in addition to compliance, it will bring huge work for litigation. There will be huge litigation, as sir has mentioned, on aspect of ITC, on aspect of valuation, on aspect of classification, on aspect of refunds. All our clients sooner or later will get show cause notice, or will sooner or later may get into investigation. We should know how litigation works. What are the stages of litigation? First, the summons are issued. Then you have to appear for cross-examination. You have to provide all the documents. Your statements will be recorded. There will be threat of arrest. After completion of investigation, show cause notice will be issued. Show cause notice has to be replied. Strong defense reply has to be made to show cause notice. All legal points, all case laws has to be cited while defending your case of your client. Therefore, litigation has huge role. It will come into play in coming time. The way department is taking an interpretation which is completely contrary to law, I feel there is a huge scope of litigation, and we should develop our members that they become expert in drafting replies and defending cases for their client. Now, since we are advocate and we are law firm, we do litigation. Mostly we are involved in litigation and advisory. We can also help how investigation has to be handled, how reply has to be drafted, what points needs to be taken, how reply has to be approached, and how to appear before authority while personal hearing. We can assist you, and we'll be very happy to assist you. And by this process, we'll be able to create expertise within our members. Now, coming to the present topic which has been allotted to me today, is the refunds under GST. The whole theme of the presentation would be, what are the issues which are being faced by all the assessees so far under all the refunds of GST, and how courts have interpreted the provisions, and where still there is a scope of litigation, and if assessee or clients wants that by going for litigation they have a scope of getting additional refunds, then those can be known to all the members. Now, we all are aware the way refunds are available under GST. There are some of the major types of refund. I have not listed out all types and varieties of refunds, but major types of refunds I have listed out. Major refund when we get is refund of tax paid on export of goods or services. Why this? The policy of government is goods and services should be exported. Taxes should not be exported. In other words, tax should not become cost of finished goods. Tax should be reimbursed to the exporter so that costing of his export goods or services comes down. Why that? If costing of his goods comes down, his goods will be able to compete with other goods of other countries in foreign country. Therefore, all the governments, all the countries give incentives to exporters by way of refund in all the laws. Under GST, they give you refund in variety of ways. We'll discuss that. One is GST on, if GST is paid on export of goods or services, government will give you refund. Government also provides goods or services can be exported without payment of tax under LUT or under bond. Then whatever tax has been suffered on those inputs or input services, government will give back those tax to the exporters by way of refund of unutilized credit, which we say tax paid on input or input services. Third peculiar refund is refund in case of inverted duty structure. What is inverted duty structure? Inverted duty structure is when tax charged on your outward supply is low and the tax suffered on your inputs or on inputs is high. And because of this, the smooth chain of credit, I repeat, the smooth chain of credit, which is a heart and core of GST law, gets affected. Therefore, government says, okay, we will give you refund of the credit which is available to you because of inverted duty structure. Then refund of tax paid on supply of goods which are regarded as a deemed export. What is deemed export? A supply which is not export, but government has assumed this as an export. Why this concept of deemed export has come and from where it has come? The concept of deemed export has come from foreign trade policy. I repeat, this whole concept of deemed export has come from foreign trade policy. What is foreign trade policy? Then question arose, what is foreign trade policy? Who has prepared this foreign trade policy? What does it provide for? Foreign trade policy is policy life of which is 5 years. In every 5 years, government issued a notification called foreign trade policy, and it also comes with public notice called Handbook of Procedure. That policy is issued under FTTR Act, Foreign Trade and Development Regulation Act. This is issued by Ministry of Commerce. All our act, either customs or GST or income tax, are governed by Ministry of Finance, Department of Revenue. Foreign trade policy is handled by Ministry of Commerce. Why? Because government frames policy to incentivize exporters, to give more and more benefits to exporter, number one. Number two, to control export and import of various goods for different reasons. Currently, we are not concerned about those reasons. For example, some goods which government doesn't want to be brought into India. Some goods are controlled goods, weapons, items which are used in weapons, items which have dual usage. All because of those reasons, government wants to control it. Therefore, foreign trade policy is issued or framed. Foreign trade policy, I repeat, takes care of or incentivize exporters. Now, what happens? It need not be necessary that all exporters import their raw material. I repeat, it is not necessary that all exporters import their raw material. It is possible the raw materials required for exporters are available to domestic supplier. In India itself, there are manufacturers who supply that raw material. So government says, okay, those domestic suppliers who are supplying their raw materials to exporter, we should ensure that a chain prior to that, a chain prior to export also get incentive so that that doesn't add to the cost of exported goods. Therefore, government incentivize that supply also, a supply where a exporter is a recipient and a domestic supplier is supplying goods to a recipient, and that recipient is an exporter. To take care of that transaction in a small way, government says a second leg of transaction, that is a supply by a domestic manufacturer to exporter, we will treat as a deemed export. It's not export because goods are not going out of India, but it's a deemed export because ultimately exporter will be exporting his finished goods by using the raw materials which he is getting from domestic supplier. Now, what happens to this transaction, which is a deemed export transaction? Now, what happens? Government has given benefit under foreign trade policy that those exporters can import their raw materials duty free under advance license scheme. I repeat, exporter can import their raw materials duty free. They need not pay any customs duty or GST when they import their raw materials under a scheme called advance license scheme. In addition to raw material, exporter also requires capital goods, machinery. That should also not suffer tax because exporter or exported goods should not have any cost element of duty component. Therefore, government says those exporters who are importing capital goods under a scheme called EPCG, Export Promotion Capital Goods Scheme. That is second. Third, for raw material, government has framed advanced license scheme. For capital goods, government has framed EPCG scheme. It has compliance burden. There is a one person who has come, sir, I am pure exporter. I will exporting the goods. I can't go for advanced license, open it, close it. I can't make this much compliances for EP. Government has created one single window for those exporters. That single window is called EOU, Export Oriented Unit. These are three schemes under foreign trade policy. These are primarily three schemes. Our GST law says if somebody is supplying goods to these three people, advanced license holder, EPCG holder, or EOU, we will treat this supply as a deemed export and we will give you refund. That's the logic. Why refund? Because this transaction is a one transaction prior to the actual export transaction. Government doesn't want to add cost in the actual exported goods. Therefore, government gives refund even in case of deemed export supply, a transaction one stage prior to actual export. That is deemed export supply. I again repeat, supply to advanced license holder, supply to EPCG holder, supply to EOU. If that is a supply, that supply will be treated as a deemed export supply and they'll be refunded under this. So if any of our client who is exporter, we should know that he is entitled for refund. If any of our client is supplying goods to exporter, I repeat, if any of our client is supplying goods to exporter, we should know that our client is entitled for refund. So what we should do, we should look transaction of our client and say, sir, are you not supplying goods to exporter? If that is the case, then you are entitled for refund under the category of deemed export refund. Then there are decisions and litigation going on due to transitional provisions. Some refund there are provisions which affect refunds and there are entitlements for refund due to transitional provisions. I will touch upon those cases also. Then wrongful payment of tax, pre-deposit of appeal. What is pre-deposit of appeal? What happens when somebody files appeal? That is, a show cause notice is issued. It has been decided against the assessee, against your client. Your client wants to file appeal before first appellate authority. There's a requirement of making mandatory pre-deposit for the purpose of filing appeal. That is, your client need to deposit certain amount as a condition for filing appeal. If your client succeeds, then the amount which is deposited as a condition of filing appeal, that amount will be refunded back to your client. That is called refund in pre-deposit. Then some advance tax is being paid and supply has not been affected. Now, sir, first point, export of goods on payment of GST. What our provision says? Provision says in case of zero rated supply, assessee or exporter will be entitled for refund. Question is, what is zero rated supply? They could have said export. They have not said exports. They have said zero rated supply. Then they have defined what is zero rated supply. It says zero rated supply means export of goods or export of services or both. And second, supply of goods or services both to SCZ developer or unit. Now, sir, what is SCZ? SCZ is a special economic zone, broadly for the purpose of creating more and more places from where exports can take place. Why government is promoting export? What is the reason? Reason is exports bring foreign exchange. What? Export brings foreign exchange. All government wants big reserve of export currencies, export exchange, foreign exchange. Now, how foreign exchange will increase? More and more export, more and more foreign exchange. Therefore, government says, therefore, government creates places from where more and more exports take place. One of such concept is special economic zone. Special economic zone is governed under a separate statute called Special Economic Zone Act, and there are regulations for that special economic zone rules. Only one point I want to mention is special economic zone is treated place outside India. I repeat, special economic zones, though are located into India, but those places are deemed to be a place outside India. What is the impact? Impact is if somebody is sending goods to SCZ, that will be treated as zero rated supply equivalent to export. If somebody brings goods from SCZ to a DTA or any factory in India, it will be treated as an import and customs duty will be applicable. Therefore, SCZ concept we should know. How SCZ functions we should know. Only as far as transaction is concerned, when there is a supply from DTA to SCZ, it will be export. When there is a supply from SCZ to DTA, it will be import and customs duty will be applicable. Now, refund on exports. We have seen even somebody is exporting the goods, we should know there shall not be any tax implication. That transaction will be tax neutral transaction. So what government says, if you are an exporter, you have two options for claiming refund. What are those two options? Either you charge GST on your finished goods and you export it. We will give you refund of that GST component charged on export goods. Second option is you export goods without payment of tax. You export goods without payment of tax under LUT or bond. We will give you refund of the tax charged on your inputs and input services which are used for exporting your goods or exporting your services. These two options are available. I repeat, first option is supply of goods by charging IGST and claim refund of that IGST on finished goods. Second option is exporting finished goods under bond or LUT, taking refund on tax charged on inputs and input services. These are two options. Now these two options, yes sir.
आप हिंदी में भी बोल सकते हैं अगर आपको बेटर लगे तो, rather than speaking all in English.
Sir, I'm comfortable. I'll
Okay.
do one thing. I'll make mix of Hindi and English. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
I hope so far I have tried to be slow. So far I feel we have followed so far whatever we have discussed. So
Yes, sir.
Now same method was available even pre-GST era. What were the law applicable pre-GST? It was excise, which was duty on event of manufacture of goods. Even in that law, there were two rules, Rule 18 and Rule 19, which were perimeteria with the existing rules wherein refund is provided under GST law. Now, these are the options. First point I will take, for which I'll inform all the members. This point is very serious. Thousands and thousands of notices are issued merely on this point. I repeat, thousands show cause notice are issued merely on this point, that is dispute under Rule 96 Clause 10. What is this 96 Clause 10? We have seen दो ऑप्शंस है एक्सपोर्टर के पास. First option, either he can pay IGST on his finished goods while exporting his goods and claim refund. जो first option है, if somebody is going for that first option, he is charging IGST on his finished goods by utilizing his credit and exporting finished goods. तो गवर्नमेंट उसको IGST जो भी चार्ज किया है उस फिनिश्ड गुड्स का वो रिफंड देगा. Now, what happens? Government can't, in the sense, unfortunately, all these refunds provisions are not very simple. There are conditions, and when there is a condition, sometimes client fails to follow that condition. They forgot to see the provisions. Condition is, जो कंपनी एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है फिनिश गुड्स को IGST पे करके, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है और इस पे बहुत ज्यादा लिटिगेशन चल रहा है. वी आर गेटिंग लॉट ऑफ क्वेरीज. इन्वेस्टिगेशन इज गोइंग ऑन दिस पॉइंट. Any of your exporter, any of your client or any of your friend's client is an exporter, and if they are falling under these categories, then they might have received summons or inquiry on this aspect. ज्यादातर एक्सपोर्टर्स ने ये फॉलो नहीं किया था, and investigation is going on this issue. Now, what are the conditions? Condition ये है, first, the exporter का जो domestic supplier है, he should not have supplied raw materials under deemed export benefit. For example, एक मोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चरर है, वो एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है. That mobile manufacturer is procuring raw materials from a domestic player under advance license scheme. Since mobile manufacturer is an exporter, he has facility of advance license. He can get advance license. He can procure his raw material under advance license. He could have imported raw materials duty free. तो वो गया मार्केट में एडवांस लाइसेंस लेके कि सर आई वांट रॉ मटेरियल. वो एडवांस लाइसेंस बोलेगा कि इनपुट्स इज प्लास्टिक ग्रैन्युअल्स. अब देयर आर डोमेस्टिक मैन्युफैक्चरर ऑफ दैट प्लास्टिक ग्रैन्युअल्स. वो डोमेस्टिक मैन्युफैक्चरर बोलेगा सर आपके पास एडवांस लाइसेंस है, मैं आपको एडवांस लाइसेंस के सामने सप्लाई कर देता हूं, मेरा ट्रांजैक्शन डीम्ड एक्सपोर्ट हो जाएगा. डीम्ड एक्सपोर्ट है तो कोई ना कोई रिफंड लेगा, इधर रिसिपिएंट और सप्लायर. तो एक रेस्ट्रिक्शन ये है 9610 का, if person is exporting goods on payment of IGST, his supplier should not have received the benefit of deemed export. ये कंडीशन है. दूसरा है, we know what is merchant exporter. Merchant exporter term ये है कि I have a finished goods, I want to export it, I don't have manufacturing facility. क्या होगा, मैं किसी से प्रोक्योर करूंगा फिनिश गुड्स, उसी फिनिश गुड्स को एक्सपोर्ट कर दूंगा. आई हैव एक्सपोर्ट ऑर्डर्स. दो पार्टी है ए एंड बी. ए के पास एक्सपोर्ट ऑर्डर्स है, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फैसिलिटी नहीं है, ही हैज गुड कॉन्टैक्ट्स, ही हैव एक्सपोर्ट ऑर्डर्स. देन देयर इज अ पार्टी बी हु इज अ मैन्युफैक्चरर, ही डजंट हैव एक्सपोर्ट ऑर्डर्स. तो क्या होगा, जो बी होगा वो फिनिश गुड्स ए को देगा, ए उसको एक्सपोर्ट करेगा. तो गवर्नमेंट बोलती है इस पूरे ट्रांजैक्शन को जहां पे वैल्यू एडिशन हो ही नहीं रहा है, देयर इज नो वैल्यू एडिशन, फिनिश गुड्स इज बीइंग सप्लाइड टू मर्चेंट एक्सपोर्टर इज एक्सपोर्टिंग द गुड्स. सो गवर्नमेंट सेज वी परमिट दिस सप्लाई अंडर कंसेशनल रेट 0.05%, 0.1% IGST. So that is a concessional rate provided for supply to merchant exporter. वापस ट्रांजैक्शन पे आते हैं. गवर्नमेंट बोलती है if somebody has exported goods on payment of IGST, then he should not have procured goods on which first either supplier or recipient has availed deemed export benefit. Secondly, they should not have been supplied under 0.1% category. If these two are there, then on export, refund of IGST will not be available. He might have paid IGST on his export side, but that refund will not be available if his supplier has availed deemed export benefit or his supplier has provided supplies under 0.1% rate. These two restrictions are there on supply side. There are additional restrictions also. Additional two conditions are the exporter should not have procured raw materials without payment of IGST. I repeat, the exporter should not have imported raw material without payment of IGST under advance license scheme. I repeat, advance license scheme is a scheme where exporter is permitted to import his duty-free raw materials. Advance license scheme where exporter is permitted to import raw materials duty-free without payment of has imported raw materials under advance license scheme without payment of IGST, then exporter cannot claim refund under Rule 96 Clause 10. That is, exporter cannot pay IGST on his finished goods and claim refund. If exporter has imported imports without payment of IGST under advance license scheme. That is third restriction. Fourth restriction is for EOU. If EOU is exporting goods on payment of IGST, then EOU should not have imported raw materials without payment of GST. If these are the four conditions, if any of them is triggered, then exporter is not entitled for refund of IGST. Now it's very simple. All four conditions are there. If these conditions are there, then exporter cannot claim refund of IGST. Now first point, what is problem? We all know GST has two parts. One is an act, other is a rules. Rules are framed under act. So we need to see the provisions of act. We need to see procedure of rules. I repeat, we need to see provision of act or statute. We need to see procedure under rules. If any conditions, any restrictions has to be made, those restrictions has to be made in a act. Act is a principle. Rules are baby. So if principle doesn't put any restrictions, baby cannot put that restriction. Why? The purpose of rules is to frame, to make procedure. There cannot be a substantial restrictions or substantial conditions in the procedure. All the substantial conditions has to be there in a statute. Now, if statute doesn't provide for any conditional refund, the baby cannot override the statute and provide for conditions. So rule is, if any conditions are there in a baby or in the rules, that will be ultra virus to a statute or contrary to the statute, then that conditions will go away, need not be followed. Those conditions has to be quashed before High Court. So we might have seen many judgments where court have held this provision is ultra virus to constitution, this provision is ultra virus to statute. What? The whole things are that rules provide for conditions, statute doesn't provide for conditions, rules are going beyond the statute. I repeat, rules are going beyond the statute. Therefore, those rules are ultra virus. Here, apply that principle in present case. Section 54 provides for refund. Section 16 in this case provides for refund. Those provisions doesn't provide for any condition. Those section doesn't say whether import is under advanced license, whether supply is under merchant transaction, whether supply is a deemed export transaction, whether import is under EOU scheme. Those conditions are not there in the statute. If statute doesn't provide for that condition, then rule also cannot provide for that condition. Rule cannot go beyond the statute. Therefore, one point is these conditions are ultra virus to an act. Number one. Now this has a history of amendment. Now that history I will not touch upon, but when we see the history, the earlier restriction was qua supplier. I repeat, earlier restriction was qua supplier. मतलब सप्लायर को ये नहीं करना चाहिए था, सप्लायर को ये नहीं करना चाहिए था, सप्लायर को ये नहीं करना चाहिए था, सप्लायर को ये नहीं करना चाहिए था. There was no restriction on exporter. दो पार्टी है, एक सप्लाई कर रहा है एक्सपोर्टर को, एक्सपोर्ट उससे फिनिश्ड गुड्स बना के एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है. जो भी रेस्ट्रिक्शन था वो क्वा सप्लायर था, पार्टी ए. रेस्ट्रिक्शन क्वा एक्सपोर्टर नहीं था. उसकी वजह से इंटरप्रिटेशन हुआ, मिस इंटरप्रिटेशन हुआ. फिर गवर्नमेंट ने 2-3 बार अमेंडमेंट किया सेम रूल को. Then very same rule was amended by 2 notification on same day. This is very peculiar case. One provision is amended by 2 notification on same day. One provision provides for retrospective impact. One notification says now it will be substituted as this and this will apply retrospectively. On the very same day, other notification will say this is substituted on this. This substituted provisions, amended provisions will apply prospectively. 2 notifications were issued, notification number 53, 2018, notification number 54, 2018 on same day. एक बोलता है retrospective, दूसरा बोलता है prospective. Very same rule, 96 clause 10. Matter went to Gujarat High Court. In a case of Cosmo Films, दो चीजें चैलेंज हुई. गुजरात हाई कोर्ट में पहला प्रोविजन चैलेंज हुआ, सर दिस रूल इज गोइंग बियॉन्ड स्टैट्यूट. सेकंड प्रोविजन हुआ, सर नोटिफिकेशन 54 इज प्रोस्पेक्टिव, नोटिफिकेशन 53 इज रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव. जो नोटिफिकेशन 54 की जो कंडीशंस है, जो अपन कंडीशंस विल नॉट अप्लाई फॉर द पीरियड प्रायर टू डेट ऑफ नोटिफिकेशन. मतलब जिस दिन नोटिफिकेशन आया 54 of 2018, 23, उस दिन से पहले ये कंडीशंस नहीं लगेगी. ये कंडीशंस उस दिन के बाद लगेगी. कौन सी कंडीशंस? सप्लाई, डीम्ड एक्सपोर्ट सप्लाई है कि नहीं है, मर्चेंट एक्सपोर्ट के केस में 0.1% का बेनिफिट लिया है कि नहीं लिया है, एडवांस लाइसेंस में इंपोर्ट हुआ है कि नहीं हुआ है, ईओयू ने ड्यूटी फ्री इंपोर्ट किया है कि नहीं किया है. अगर ये 4 कंडीशंस कब लगेगी? जिस दिन नोटिफिकेशन 54 2018 आया. उससे पहले ये कंडीशंस नहीं लगेगी. उससे पहले जो एग्जिस्टिंग कंडीशंस थी केवल वही लगेगी. क्या फर्क था दोनों में? मेजर डिफरेंस ये था, इन अमेंडेड 54 which is to be applied prospectively, that says exporter should not have imported goods under advance license. Exporter should not have imported goods under advance license. पहले कंडीशन ये थी, सप्लायर शुड नॉट हैव सप्लाइड अंडर एडवांस लाइसेंस बेनिफिट. दोनों में डिफरेंस है. एक्सपोर्टर ने एडवांस लाइसेंस नहीं लिया या इंपोर्ट ड्यूटी फ्री नहीं किया और उसके सप्लायर ने ड्यूटी फ्री नहीं किया. गुजरात हाईकोर्ट ने बोला नोटिफिकेशन 54 which notification itself says prospective is not prospective, it's retrospective. I repeat, Gujarat High Court has held notification 54 which restricts exporter from importing goods under advance license is prospective, is retrospective, not prospective. इसका मतलब क्या? इसका मतलब ये from day one exporter could not have imported raw materials duty free without payment of IGST. अगर किसी भी एक्सपोर्टर ने ड्यूटी फ्री रॉ मटेरियल लाया है और एक्सपोर्ट किया है फिनिश गुड्स ऑन पेमेंट ऑफ आईजीएसटी तो उसको आईजीएसटी का रिफंड नहीं मिलेगा, ये गुजरात हाईकोर्ट ने बोला। I repeat, Gujarat High Court said notification 54 is retrospective, meaning thereby any exporter who has imported raw materials duty free under advanced license scheme cannot claim refund of IGST paid on exported goods. He has to necessarily export under bond. ये क्यों? Why these conditions are there? उस condition का what is logic from government side of view? I will tell why government is put this restriction. What is the intention of government? Whether it's a correct or not, we'll not go into this. But intention is this. Intention is if person is having 2-3 manufacturing chains या उसके 3-4 प्रोडक्ट है और वो एक एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है और दूसरे 2 एक्सपोर्ट नहीं कर रहा है, तो जो गुड्स एक्सपोर्ट हो रहा है उस रेस्पेक्ट में रॉ मटेरियल्स तो ड्यूटी फ्री आए हैं। अगर रॉ मटेरियल्स ड्यूटी फ्री आए हैं तो वो जो फिनिश गुड्स पे आईजीएसटी पे कर रहा है एक्सपोर्टर, वो किसी और रॉ मटेरियल का टैक्स पे कर रहा है, किसी और रॉ मटेरियल से जो टैक्स आया है उसको यूटिलाइज कर रहा है ऑन पेमेंट ऑफ फॉर पेमेंट ऑफ आईजीएसटी। दिस गवर्नमेंट से इज नॉट परमिटेड। गवर्नमेंट डिड नॉट परमिट क्रॉस यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ इनपुट्स इन डिफरेंट प्रोडक्शन चेन। This logic is incorrect because credit is fungible, but that is a logic. High Court has held this provision is 54 is retrospective, which means any person who is exporting the goods and importing raw material without payment of IGST and exporting goods on payment of IGST, then he cannot claim refund of IGST paid on export goods because he is hit by one of the condition. DRI have issued notices across India to all exporters. Mostly all exporters are availing advanced license scheme or they are availing EOU scheme, or they must have received supplies on which their supplier might have claimed 0.1% concessional rate, or his supplier might have availed deemed export benefit. All exporters got notice. Please provide details of your inputs. Please provide details of your exports. Please let us know exports under IGST is claimed. Please let us know imports were under advanced license. Then what they did? They said, you reverse IGST, you reverse IGST. In other words, you pay IGST in cash. Whatever refund you have availed of that IGST, you paid in cash, recovery notices. 3 crores, 5 crores, 10 crores, 500 crores. Because that's a normal method of exporting and then claiming refund. They did not see the condition. Condition also got changed in between 3-4 times. Nobody keep track of that condition. तो सबको नोटिस आया, सब इंफॉर्मेशन सबने दी। अब दिस इज वेरी कॉम्प्लेक्स एक्सरसाइज कि सर मेरे 4 प्रोडक्ट है और जो प्रोडक्ट मैं एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा हूं उसको लाने के लिए मेरे 3 रॉ मटेरियल है। किसी एक रॉ मटेरियल को मैं एडवांस लाइसेंस में लाता हूं, 2 रॉ मटेरियल को तो ड्यूटी पेड लाता हूं, मैं उस पे एडवांस लाइसेंस का बेनिफिट ले नहीं रहा हूं। एक एडवांस लाइसेंस से मैं रॉ मटेरियल्स लाया, उस रॉ मटेरियल से मैंने मैन्युफैक्चर किया फिनिश गुड्स। पार्टली दैट फिनिश गुड्स आर एक्सपोर्टेड अंडर बॉन्ड, पार्टली अंडर आईजीएसटी। ऑल कॉम्प्लेक्स ट्रांजैक्शन। मेरा रिफंड सरेंडर करना है 10 करोड़, मेरा ड्यूटी भरना आ रहा है 2 करोड़, गवर्नमेंट बोलती है आप रिफंड सरेंडर करो। This case has to be seen from facts of each case. So we need to see what are the raw materials which are imported duty free under advanced license scheme. Can we not pay IGST on those inputs at import side. Since I've imported inputs without payment of IGST, can I not pay that IGST and say, sir, now I have paid back the IGST on import side, therefore there is no advance license benefit, therefore refund which I have claimed, on my export goods, that is a IGST paid on export goods, that is available to me. Can we not say this? We have to see exercise. We have to do exercise. We have to find out how much quantum of IGST exemption under advance license is being claimed by importer. How much IGST refund paid on exported goods. Refund of IGST paid on exported goods is being claimed. If we compare that, which is more beneficial for exporter to surrender, whether my IGST claimed under customs exemption is more or IGST refund under GST law is more. If we compare that, if we find the IGST which I have paid on imported side, that is customs IGST exemption which I have claimed, if I surrender that, then I need not surrender the IGST paid on finished goods. I need not surrender. This exercise has to be done first. Question is, sir, ultimately what I have done? I have claimed IGST exemption on my inputs. I pay today IGST on import side. Can I claim credit? I repeat, question is, if somebody imports by availing customs exemption and not pay IGST, can subsequently he can go and say, sir, I want to pay IGST now on my inputs. I want to make good my refund on export side under 9610. Can I pay now? He has to go to customs. He has to say, sir, I am ready to pay IGST under customs notification. Please accept. He has to make TR6 challan. He has to get his bill of entry reassessed. What is meaning of reassessment of bill of entry? What happens? Bill of entry is a document which is filed by importer at the time of import. This document has to be filed at place of import, port of import. Based on that document, along with other import documents, custom will assess customs liability, and on payment of that customs liability, his imported goods will be discharged from control of customs. So that document is called bill of entry. On that document, there will be a details of payment. That details will say, here the importer has not paid IGST, he has claimed IGST exemption under advance license scheme. That details has to be reassessed. And because now importer is ready to pay IGST, that details has to be changed. That process is called reassessment of bill of entry. That process has to be done. Why this process has to be done? Because under GST, bill of entry is a document for availing credit. GST law expressly doesn't say TR6 challan is a document for availing credit. TR6 challan is a challan under which tax is a customs duty is paid. So reassessed bill of entry is a document for availing credit under GST laws. Therefore, a bill of entry is reassessed. That is a way we can manage this. We can reduce, we can narrow down the exposure for our client. If client pays that and he is eligible to avail credit of that component, then what will happen? Ultimately, when we say it's an export transaction, no doubt it's an export transaction. Export transaction has to be tax neutral transaction, no doubt on this. Government will give me refund either this way or that way, no doubt on this. Only wrong which an exporter has done is he has followed a wrong route. He should have gone by route A. He has followed route B. That's the only mistake he has done. For this mistake, for this small mistake of opting a different route, whether exporter should be punished to the extent he should pay back the whole refund along with interest and penalty, or whether interest at all need to be paid, or whether refund needs to be surrendered at all, or can we not say situation is revenue neutral. Therefore, ultimately, had I exported goods under bond, I would have claimed refund of IGST paid on my inputs which are used for export goods, that refund is still available to me. Now what he has done, he has got his bill of entry reassessed because custom has come. After reassessment, he has availed credit. Since he has returned, surrendered his IGST paid amount to customs, his exports can be converted into under bond export. Once that is converted under bond export, then a tax paid on inputs or input services is entitled for refund. When in any case, exporter is entitled for refund, why to create such a big nuisance and then create a litigation by which government revenues doesn't get affected? Government gets same amount. Government assessee will go and pay IGST in the form of customs duty. Assessee will take a credit, and assessee, he is an exporter. He has exported the goods. He will claim refund. So what government got in their exchequer? Nothing, or a minor difference. Now Gujarat High Court has held notification 54 is retrospective. Though notification itself clearly says that 54/2018 is prospective. Now, in a different case, Gujarat High Court themselves have held that no, notification 54/2008 is a prospective only. Therefore, all the summons etc. are issued by DRI for the period prior to 54. I repeat, for the period prior to 54, all the notices which are issued to all the assessees where assessee have imported under advanced license scheme and exported under refund goes away. That is the impact of this decision. Similarly, Madurai bench of Madras High Court has also held notification 54/2018 is a prospective and 53 is a retrospective. Therefore, restriction of availing IGST exemption under advanced license scheme will be applicable only after notification 54, not prior to this. Therefore, all your clients, I repeat, all your clients or your friends who have faced this issue, they should clearly know first thing, notification 54/2018 is prospective, meaning thereby all the restrictions, all these four conditions will be applicable only after notification 54 of 2018. Before that, he need not surrender their IGST refund at all. Whether they have procured goods under advanced license scheme or not, it doesn't matter. Now this decision has come, but different issues, different scenarios are possible. And as a matter of planning and as a matter of narrow down the exposure for our client, we should know answer to all these questions. Sir, there's a restriction for inputs. Whether exporter has imported duty-free capital goods, whether he can claim refund of IGST paid on export goods or not. I repeat, when exporter has imported capital goods without payment of IGST, whether the same restriction will be applicable or not. In other words, exporter has not paid any IGST on import side while importing their capital goods or machinery. Can he export goods? Can he export finished goods on payment of IGST and claim refund? Answer is, the provision itself is amended later on with retrospective effect, and it was provided that a same restriction is not available, is not applicable for import of capital goods under EPCG scheme, meaning thereby if any exporter has imported capital goods duty free, then he still can claim IGST refund which is paid on export goods. Whether restriction is qua supply or restriction is qua person. What is meaning of this? Whether restriction is qua person or whether restriction is qua supply. So these are why I'm giving so much time on this. The reason is this is a live issue. Thousands of notices are being issued. Matter is pending. Investigation is pending. show cause notice will be issued in future. We should know while responding to those show cause notice, what are the points which we can take, whether we can challenge the show cause notice itself before High Court. Mostly I have discussed all these points, that we have to plan whether it is beneficial to surrender IGST on import side on imports, or is it beneficial to surrender IGST paid on finished goods on export side. That comparison has to be made, and this comparison will vary from client to client. Facts will change from client to client. That details, factual data has to be seen, and thereafter decision has to be taken whether for your client it's beneficial to surrender IGST exemption on inputs or IGST refund on exports. This comparison has to be seen, it has to be made. Now, different situations we have dealt with. I will not go one by one, but short point is pre-54, pre-cutoff date, there is no restriction. Post-cutoff date, the restriction with regard to advance license is there. That is, first, we have discussed Rule 96, Clause 10. Second, we have seen refund is available for zero-rated supply. Zero-rated supply can be export of goods, can be export of services. For export of services, there is a dispute in respect of some industry. Dispute is going on whether their service qualify as an export of service or not. We know to qualify as an export of service, conditions has to be satisfied. One condition being place of supply of service has to be outside India. One condition for export of service is, in addition to other condition, place of supply shall be outside India. In other words, if place of supply is not outside India, then it will not be treated as an export of service. Therefore, client will not be able to get refund on this export. Some industry is engaged in the business of research and development, in the business of testing. So what happens in that case? Testing has to be done on particular goods, on particular items. Research has to be done on particular goods. For that, a foreign recipient will supply that goods to Indian service provider. So facts are, there is one party, Indian exporter of service. He is undertaking research for a foreign client. He is undertaking testing for a foreign client. Foreign client will be giving consideration in foreign exchange. Question is, when a service provider is receiving foreign exchange for this activity, whether he is entitled for refund, whether this supply is a zero-rated supply, and consequently he is entitled for refund or not. That's the issue. We know residuary rule is place of service recipient is a location of supply. There's a residuary rule. So unless somebody is falling under specified rules, unless and until his supply is excluded from all the specified rules, residuary rule will not be applicable. Department has taken a view that since testing and research, for doing that, you need a goods, you need a something on which research has to be done. You need some inputs on which you will do testing. Some goods will be there. That goods will be supplied from your foreign supplier, or you will procure those goods from Indian party. So you are performing some service for which there is a requirement of goods. Once that is there, then a place of provision of supply will be location on which, location where service is performed. I repeat, for your testing and analysis, you require a goods. You will be performing some service on those goods. And the law is, if for performing some service, there is a requirement of goods, then place of supply would be place where service is performed. In your case, testing, analysis, etc. is being performed in India. Therefore, place of provision of supply is India. Therefore, it's not an export of service, because for export of service, location of place of supply has to be outside India. In your case, recipient is outside India, but place of provision of supply is India. Therefore, it's not export of service. Whole industry is being affected because of this. Whole industry, the industry which is engaged in R&D services, technical testing and analysis, whole industry is affected because this interpretation is taken by department. View can be taken, matter can be argued. It can be argued. The purpose of the sections 13 clause 3a, which says where there is a requirement of providing a goods for performing a service, there's an intention behind that provision. Intention is service has to be performed on goods for improvisation of goods. That is, you repair some machinery. After repairing, machinery can be used. You perform some activity on person, and there's an improvement in that goods. Here, by performing service, there is no improvement in the goods. The goods are incidental for your main service. Therefore, this section itself is not applicable. A subsection is not applicable. Therefore, this category should go under residuary category. And since a place of location of recipient has to be seen, which is outside India, therefore, even on this transaction, refund should be available, because this has to be treated as export of service, therefore zero rated, therefore entitled for refund. So I'll urge all those members who have a clients who are performing these activities of testings, research and analysis, they can advise them, because otherwise it becomes cost to them. Any tax charged on your export of service is a pure cost, because nobody is entitled to avail credit of that component. Therefore, it will be value addition for those clients who are performing these testing, analysis, research and development, etc. There it can be contested and say that, sir, in my case, section 16 clause, subclause 3a is not applicable, because goods are required. There is no improvisation in the goods because of my service. Goods are required incidental to performance of service. The whole substance, nobody is interested in goods. My recipient has interested in my research. The outcome of my activity is a research. Outcome of activity is not a development of product. Nobody is interested in improvement of product which is being supplied. Therefore, this transaction will fall as an export of service. This matter was referred to advance ruling. Advance ruling, as we know, mostly decides against the assessee. They have decided against the assessee and held that since there's a requirement of providing the goods for performance of service, therefore, place of provision of supply is India. Therefore, it's not an export of service. Therefore, it's not zero rated, refund is not available. In our view, this matter can be contested. Now, second point is, all your clients who are engaged in export of services, under GST law, definition of export of service is different than under foreign trade policy. Foreign trade policy provides certain export incentives to export of services. Those incentives are called SEIS. For export of goods, under chapter 3, MEIS is available. For export of services, SEIS is available. Those SEIS benefit is provided by way of some percentage of value, some percentage of foreign exchange. For some services, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. So if any person who is exporter of services, he will get 5% merely in form of scrips from government. And those scrips can be sold in the market, open market. There are purchasers who purchase it. They can utilize for their own imports. So all those your clients who are exporter of service, you should know they are entitled for SEIS benefit. They may not get confused between export of service under GST and export of service under FTP. The definition under FTP merely says if somebody is providing any service for which he is receiving foreign exchange, that is good enough. For getting SEIS benefit, there is no concept of location of service, place of provision of service under FTP. So it may so happen some exports of research development or testing activity may get hit under GST and they may not get refund under GST, but still they may get SEIS benefit under foreign trade policy. So we should be very clear while giving advice that, sir, it may so happen that your GST department may create problems for giving GST refunds for your export of services. However, at the same time, you are entitled for SEIS benefit, which may be 2% or 3% or 4% of value of your services. That we should be clear. That is third point. Second point we have covered. Third point is refund of accumulated credit. Sir, we know what is the logic. Let's understand logic first, then we'll go into the law. Logic is government wants smooth flow of credit, ITC. That's the whole heart and soul of GST. When there's a mismatch of rates, then there's a problem. Because if rate of finished goods is high and rate of inputs is low, then assessee can pay in cash. There's no accumulation, there's no cost for assessee. Assessee can recover from his purchaser. GST component he will recover. But when rate on input side is high and rate on finished goods is low, then there is an accumulation of credit and it adds to the cost. And this is not business friendly. Therefore, government says, don't worry, we'll give you refund. Because of some problem in the ITC chain, if your credit gets activated, we'll give you refund. We are business friendly government. That's the logic. So government says, we will give you refund if your supply has inverted duty structure. That is, tax on finished goods is less, tax on inward side is high. Actually, the logic is on inward side. But the way provision is drafted misses one point. Instead of saying inward side, it says input. Why? Inward side will cover all your inputs, your input services, your capital goods. Because that's the logic. Credit can be accumulated due to inputs. It can be accumulated due to input services. It can be accumulated due to capital goods. When the logic is giving refund on all accumulated credit to the assessee, then government should be open heart. They should give refund to all the assessees. But sometimes when drafting is such and it benefits government, then government takes benefit of that drafting. This is one of the example of that. It says inputs. Net ITC in the formula only covers inputs. It doesn't cover input services. That's the problem. Secondly, now when we see this, it says turnover of zero rated supply means supply of zero rated means the value of zero rated supply of goods relevant period without payment of tax under bond and the value on which is like goods domestic so and so so and so. Now, sir, in addition to this, there is more problem when somebody is on refund of ITC in case of exports. Problem is when somebody is exporting goods, then there is accumulated credit. Government has seen that people are overvaluing their export goods. I repeat, government have seen people are overvaluing their export goods, and because of which their export turnover comes on higher side. and because of which they are availing more and more refund on unutilized ITC. Now this formula is important. This formula says basically it's a ratio of your export turnover versus your total turnover, and your ITC has to be refunded in that ratio. Simple. Without going into much complication, simple formula is there's a ratio of your total turnover versus your export turnover, and net ITC will be refunded based on that ratio. Now, if somebody tweaks in that ratio, then there's a problem. Government says we will restrict your export turnover only to the extent of 1.5% of value of domestic supply. What does it mean? It means if you have exported, let's say unit A in 200 rupees, it may so happen foreign market, you may fetch more money in foreign market, it so happen. And very same goods, if you have supplied in domestic market at 100 rupees, then government feels that 200 rupees which you have got for your export turnover is overvaluation. Back of their mind is you might be receiving that amount back to India through some other channels. Merely government feels merely for claiming higher refund, you are overvaluing your goods. So what they have done, they have said we will fix value of your export turnover, which means whatever amount of 200 rupees you might have received for your export, we will not consider that. We will take maximum 1.5 of your domestic supplies, price of your domestic supply. This will be more clear from this table. So we see in column 2, there is a price of domestic supply that is 200 rupees. And there is a price for export supply 350. So what will happen? 200 into 5, 1000 rupees. 350 into 5, 7050 is your turnover. Now post amendment government says in second 1.5 into 5 into 200 we will take maximum turnover. That is, we will restrict to 1.5% of your domestic supply. So what they have done, 1.5 multiplied by 5, 1000 is multiplied by 1.5. So maximum turnover they have counted is 1500 only. His actual receipt of foreign exchange is 1750. That is his export turnover. Government has put upper cap and reduced his export turnover to 1500. That's the net impact of this. And since we know the refund is in the ratio of total turnover versus export turnover, if you reduce the export turnover, your total refund will get down. Now this also they have done by way of notification in the rules. Rule 89(4). We know when any restriction is not there in the statute, rule cannot cut down my entitlement. When the whole purpose of refund is to give refund on tax charged, that's the whole purpose, to make your export transaction tax neutral transaction. Merely because some persons are doing overvaluation, why should bona fide assessee be punished? And same test has to be applied on bona fide exporters also, and to say we will not accept your export value, we will reduce it to the extent of 1.5% of the price of domestic supplies. He says, sir, I can, and in fact the goods which I am supplied in domestic market is not even identical, it's a similar. My exporter is ready to pay me more price. Why not I should export in more price? Why should I reduce my export price? And why should government restrict my export entitlements? If on facts I have received 1750 in this case as a foreign exchange, Why should my export turnover should be reduced to the extent of 1500 only? It's very illogical. And what is the implication of this? Implication is cost of my product will go high. I know I will not be able to get refund of all component of my inputs. My refund amount will be less. Therefore, my cost of finished goods will be high. My product will not be able to compete with foreign market. That's the whole purpose of refund. When that is the whole purpose of refund, by putting these restrictions in the rules, not even a statute. Law doesn't say. Law says you are entitled for refund. Rule says no, 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 no. I will count this much turnover only. So if that is the case, balance 250, which is deducted, is it not a zero rated supply? So 1750 I have exported, 1500 government says zero rated supply, balance 250 which they have deducted by applying this formula, is it not zero rated supply? If that is a zero rated supply and your act says for zero rated supply I am entitled for refund, why to bring this restriction in the rules? Therefore, this rules again is going to beyond the act, is again going beyond the act, is against the logic of refund, against the intention of refund, and in fact ultra virus to the statute itself. And because of this, lot of litigation will come merely because of this rule. The way this rule is drafted, basically the way this rule is supposed to take care of fraudulent export transactions, but they are drafted in such a way that officers, government officers can misuse this rule and say, can misinterpret, sorry, and say, sir, goods which are similarly cleared in domestic market, though it's not identical, but similar, I will take 1.5 of that and I will restrict your export turnover. Sir, the goods which I am clearing in domestic market is a normal tea, which I sell in 100 rupees. The export, the tea which I am exporting is highly processed tea, which I'm not clearing domestic market. It fetches 1000 rupees and it's worth 1000 rupees. Can you apply that 100 rupees on my export turnover because both are similar, both are tea? It cannot be. Therefore, those assessees who have a varieties of export products or in the same product different varieties, they will face huge challenge because of this provision, and government officers will simply apply the provision and say, since the goods which are cleared in domestic market is of same nature, or is the same goods which are exported, we will not go into the quality, we will not see anything. Tea is tea for us. Therefore, your refund is only 1.5% of the price of goods cleared in domestic market. This will create huge litigation. And in past, this has happened. This 1.5 magic figure is taken, in fact, from old provisions of customs. It used to happen under customs law that people used to take higher drawback and they used to overvalue the goods merely for claiming higher drawback. Their government put a restriction that we will see the goods which are domestically cleared, same goods, and then we'll compare, and therefore they have put restriction on 1.5%. So that they adopted and now applied in GST. So this is one of the point which may create litigation. And now since the amendment is a recent amendment, question is whether this amendment will be applicable prospectively or it has to be applied retrospectively, whether this amendment has to be applied on exports already made for which refund is pending, or this will apply only to those exports which are goods which are exported after this provision. Now on inverted duty structure. We were on the point that inverted duty structure is basically a refund of tax charge on inward sides because of which accumulation is happening to the assessee. Government wants there should not be accumulation of taxes at the hand of assessee. Government is business friendly. Therefore, government gives refund. But the way provision is drafted, provision says net input tax credit availed on inputs during the relevant period. The term which is used is inputs. Term is not inward supplies. We all know intention is there shall not be accumulation of credit because of different rate structures of various goods. Therefore, government is giving you refund. I repeat, in inverted duty structure, government is giving you refund because government doesn't want accumulation of inputs, ITC, accumulation of ITC in your ledger because of different rates applicable on your inputs and finished goods. Therefore, intention is to give refund of credit accumulated on inward supplies. But term which is used in a statute, Rule 89 clause 5 says, availed on inputs. Therefore, the grievance was whether this inputs is not input, it's inputs, whether it's a plural term and does it include input services also going by the intention of law. Gujarat High Court has held, sir, when you see the section 54.3, 54.3's refund will be available. Your rule says, and that's the purpose of giving refund, there should not be accumulation of credit. Your rule refers inputs. Therefore, when unutilized input tax will include even for services also. Therefore, the explanation of Rule 89 clause 5, which says it is only input tax credit only on inputs, has to be read down, and you will get refund of unutilized ITC for input services also. That was held by Gujarat High Court. We are in Gujarat. Gujarat High Court has held any refund of inverted duty structure. In that refund, assessee will get refund of inputs, tax charge on inputs, and also refund of tax charge on input services also. They have not gone to the extent of capital goods, no. They have said any tax which is charged on inputs, any tax which is charged on input services, assessee will be entitled to claim refund of both when his transaction is falling under inverted duty structure. That is held by Gujarat High Court in VKC Food. Madras High Court did not take this view. Madras High Court has held no. When law is very clear, law says input tax credit on inputs, we will go by this, and refund on tax charge on input services will not be available to the assessee. Now see what happens. We have two Gujarat High Courts, two High Courts. One is Gujarat High Court, which is in favor of assessee. One is Madras High Court against the assessee. If this is a situation, then law says assessee which are located in the respective states, on those assessee, decision of High Court will be binding. So what is a law? Law says, number first principle, if there is a High Court decision and there is no contrary High Court decision, then that High Court decision will be binding across India. That is number first thumb principle. When there is a High Court decision, that High Court decision is binding across India in absence of any contrary decision. Second situation, when there are two contrary High Court decisions, so those decisions will be applicable, will be binding in their respective jurisdictions, that is in their respective states, those both decisions will be binding. If assessee is located in third state, third situation, then that High Court have a choice either to accept Gujarat High Court or to accept High Court of Madras. Now this matter is pending before Supreme Court. Now Supreme Court will decide what is the fate, whether assessee can get refund of tax charge on input services also under inverted duty structure. Fourth category is, we have seen refund is available for zero rated supply. Zero rated supply is export of goods, export of services. Then section also says when supply to SEZ is there, in that case also assessee is entitled for refund. So what will happen? This SEZ unit, I have said what is SEZ unit? SEZ unit is a place which is deemed to be a location outside India. It's deemed by legal fiction. physically that land is located into India. We have various SEZs like Dahej, etc. Though physically they are located in India, but by legal fiction, government has deemed as if located outside India. Those SEZs are governed by under SEZ Act. There are special rules for that, SEZ rules. Now, since that SEZ unit is deemed outside India, therefore all the consequences will follow. So consequence is, when a person of India is providing goods, is supplying goods to SEZ, that will be treated as equivalent to export, because SEZ is a place outside India, is deemed to be place outside India. So same two options are available with the supplier. First option is he can supply under bond or he can supply on payment of GST, and both similar options will be followed. One point of dispute arose in all these cases when CCD is supplying food and beverages to employees of assessee, to a place, to employees of assessee. Question is this supply is a zero rated or not? He is not supplying goods in a SEZ place. He is supplying food and beverages to employees of assessee. Whether this is a zero rated supply or not. Again, we have seen law doesn't say, law says supply to SEZ. Rule says supply to SEZ for authorized operations. So rule is adding one step, for rule is going one step further. That is, if you are supplying goods to SEZ for authorized operations, then refund is available. Rule says this. Act doesn't say. So in Coffee Day, CCD, they are supplying beverages to employees of assessee, which are consumed by employees of assessees. Question arose, is it a zero rated supply? Am I not supplying to SEZ? Advanced ruling held that since those supplies are not for authorized operations of SEZ. Sir, what is authorized operations? See what happens, SEZ zone will have various units. Some will be manufacturing unit, some will be facility provider. For example, there may be education, hospitals, etc., hotels in SEZ. Those units will not be exporting themselves goods or services. They are merely providing services to those units which are located in SEZ. So what those units, those SEZ units are manufacturers, are called authorized operations. They are exporting, etc. Then there are areas who are not performing any operations. Okay. So question arose, those employees, you are merely giving food to employees. This service is nothing to do with, is not used for authorized operations, is not used for manufacturing or provision of service by a unit. It has no connection at all. So this additional point was looked into by advanced ruling, and unfortunately advanced ruling has decided against the assessee and held that it's not expressly using the authorized term in the section so and so, both described in this. Hence, in the present case, since applicant has not made out a case, this activity is certified by authorized as an authorized operations by a proper officer of SEZ. Therefore, this is not a zero rated supply, and therefore this is not, therefore refund will not be available. So whenever our clients are providing any services to SEZ or they are supplying goods to SEZ, we should make sure that those services are either endorsed as a services used for authorized operations, and there is be endorsement by the SEZ officer. Who is a SEZ officer? SEZ officer are customs officer which are placed at SEZ unit. They takes care of all the compliances for SEZ. They inward whatever goods come into SEZ, whatever goods out, they outward whatever goods goes out of SEZ. So we should ensure whenever there is a supply to SEZ unit, there is a proper endorsement. So later on this dispute doesn't arise, those goods are whether for authorized operations or not. This precaution has to be taken care by all the assessees who are making supply to SEZ unit. Now, sir, second issue arises. There is a provision says that SEZ unit will not claim ITC, will not claim refund on inward supplies. I repeat the transaction. It's very important to understand the transaction. There's a DTA unit, there's a SEZ unit. DTA unit is supplying goods to SEZ unit. SEZ unit is using those goods as inputs and manufacturing finished goods and exporting out of India. Law says when goods are being supplied from a DTA unit to SEZ, it's a zero rated supply. And in that supply, only supplier can claim refund. SEZ unit cannot claim refund in first leg of supply. There's a second leg of also supply that SEZ has also independently exported its finished goods by utilizing those inputs. Question arose whether in second leg of transaction, can SEZ unit claim refund of unutilized credit? In second leg of transaction, can SEZ unit claim refund of tax charge on inputs or input services? Again, advanced ruling in Varachha International, with due respect, without looking into that aspect of second leg, held that since there is a provision that then in a case of when SEZ is a recipient, SEZ cannot claim refund. They did not venture into second leg of transaction and have seen whether SEZ himself independently exporting the goods. Now, sir, we have very few minutes. One more important point on which litigation is going on across India. This is refund arising due to transitional provisions. So transitional provision section 142 covers a situation basically whatever credit is available to the assessee in their books in the previous law, those will be transitioned in GST records. That's a simple way. That is a transition of existing inputs into the transition into existing records to GST records. There has to be smooth transition into this. I'm not going into Tran 1 issues here. The issue is under customs, if somebody is importing the goods under advanced license or EPCG, then there's an exemption on payment of CVD and SED. CVD and SED are equivalent to excise duty in excise regime. Those components were creditable component and credit was available. Now what happens when GST was about to come? There was some provisional assessment and GST came after GST assessment got finalized. And because of that finalization, additional liability to pay CVD and SED arose. Number one, example number one. Example number two, imports were under advanced license scheme where CVD and SED were exempted. Import under EPCG scheme where CVD and SED on capital goods were exempted. In both cases, assessee was supposed to export particular number of goods, that is called export obligation. That export obligation was not fulfilled and consequently assessee was supposed to pay back the CVD and SED exemption which was availed at the time of import. Now after GST, there's no provision under GST which says even if somebody pays express, no express provision under GST which says even this amount is being paid later on, then equivalent credit should be available in GST records because those credit was not transitioned and those payment arose after implementation of GST. Assessee in this case relied upon section 142 clause 3 which says every claim of refund filed by an SE before or after appointed day, any refund of any amount of sandware credit duty etc. shall be given in cash. So this provision has been interpreted by assessee that sir, any credit which assessee is entitled and he could not have availed credit in their records, that amount has to be paid in cash. So I have satisfied all the conditions of this provision which says refund can be filed by a person, can be filed before or after the appointed day. Any amount of SENVAT, etc. is pertaining to existing law. Refund claims should be disposed of under existing law, shall be refunded in cash. Assessee said, I have satisfied all the conditions. I could have availed credit. Had it been a excise regime continuously, I could have claimed that credit now, that time, because I was entitled to. Now you have changed the law. You have changed the law from excise to GST. My entitlement of credit should not be affected because of your transition. Therefore, he said, credit is a statutory right to the assessee. It's a substantial right. It cannot be affected. My right of credit cannot be affected because of implementation of new tax regime. Then they have said the right is given. When right is given, then it is not contemplated that those rights are never, there is no remedy for those rights. Ubi jus ibi remedium. It's a Latin maxim which says ubi jus ibi remedium. Wherever there is a right, there is a remedy. So based on this, assessee argued that they are entitled for refund of CVD and SAD. Now, a same logic will be applicable for refund of ocean freight, which is paid under RCM now, after GST. Some of the authorities have granted refund, thankfully, but those orders have been challenged by department. This matter is also pending in Supreme Court. So we should know all our clients who are paying tax on input side now, because of various reasons, whether they will be entitled for refund in cash pertaining to those amounts, because otherwise, had there not be a GST, they would have availed credit. Merely because of change of tax regime, their entitlement of credit cannot be questioned. Now, sir, with this one more example, where because of CGST, SGST versus this IGST, for this law is very clear. Law clearly says you need not pay interest, but there's a decision of High Court which says it can be adjusted. So if somebody has paid wrongly CGST or SGST, he should have paid IGST. Then one High Court has held, thankfully, that there can be adjustment. So we can check with all our clients. If some problem arise, then they can write a letter for adjustment of that amount instead of giving one amount and then applying for refund to other amounts. With this, I will conclude. Major portions I have tried to cover all the litigations which has happened pertaining to refund. And I request whatever points we have seen, we can check with our clients, and if possible, we can do some value addition to our clients, and those transactions can be re-looked into. Thank you, sir. If any questions,
Thank
we can.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful presentations and deliberations for our members. Sir, one question related to inverted duty structure that have been written in my chat box. In case of inverted duty structure, we are filing a statement 1A, statement 1. Whether the trading turnover is not to be included in turnover or to be included in turnover. मतलब जो हम वो स्टेटमेंट 1 फाइल करते हैं एक्सेल शीट में, जो जेएसएन फाइल जनरेट करके अपलोड करते हैं, उसमें दोनों टर्नओवर डालना पड़ता है, परचेज और सेल्स का, ये ट्रेडिंग वाला.
हाँ, इसमें सर वो टर्नओवर डालना है जहां पे आपका टैक्स जो है वो कम है. जिस टर्नओवर पे इनपुट का टैक्स ज्यादा है और फिनिश गुड्स का कम है, वो टर्नओवर डालना है. उसी प्रोपोर्शन में गवर्नमेंट आपको रिफंड देती है.
यस सर, आई एग्री विथ यू. बट यहाँ पे हमारे यहाँ जो व्यूअर्स जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ऑफ ग्रे क्लॉथ करते हैं, उसका आउटपुट रेट 5% है और इनपुट रेट यहाँ पर 12% है. तो
Yes, sir.
वो कभी कभार क्या करते हैं, वो कभी ट्रेडिंग भी करते हैं. ग्रेडिंग का ग्रे का उसमें परचेज भी होता है और यान का भी परचेज होता है, और आउटपुट रेट सब 5% का है. तो उसमें क्वेश्चन ये है स्पेसिफिकली कि दोनों वो ग्रे परचेज जो हम कर रहे हैं वो भी उसमें डालना चाहिए या नहीं डालना चाहिए?
नहीं डालना चाहिए सर, उसका नहीं है सर, क्योंकि वो आपका इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर का पार्ट ही नहीं है सर.
तो उसमें सर यहाँ पे जो एक डिपार्टमेंट की प्रैक्टिस है उसमें ये है कि center CGST department, while applying the rule 30, they are adding a 10% of purchase. While we are giving the formulas of the inverted duty structures refund amount जो हम वो फॉर्मूला से लाते हैं, जो रिफंड अमाउंट का जो कैलकुलेशन करते हैं, तो उसमें वो लोग जो हमारा ग्रे का ट्रेडिंग उसमें 10% ऑफ प्रॉफिट प्लस करवाते हैं, एंड देन सेल अमाउंट रखवा, मतलब वो एडजस्टेड टर्नओवर वो लेते हैं. उससे
सर
क्या आता है,
एक आप एक काम,
प्रोपोर्शनली रिफंड
हाँ
हमारा कम हो जाता है.
सर वैसा नहीं करना, अपनन को तो केवल यही देखना है कि मेरा जो देखिए सर, ये रिफंड ही इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर के लिए है, ठीक है.
Yes,
तो बेसिकली जो
sir.
नेट
Yes.
आईटीसी है, नेट आईटीसी ऑन दोज इनपुट्स जहाँ पे रेट ज्यादा है, और मेरे टोटल टर्नओवर का मेरा कितना इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर है, उतने प्रोपोर्शन में गवर्नमेंट को आपको रिफंड देना है.
Yes.
एक
Yes,
बार सर
yes.
आप एक काम कीजिएगा, मुझे आप अलग से वर्किंग भेजिएगा, आई विल सी दैट वर्किंग
Okay, sir.
एंड देन
Okay,
वी विल
okay,
डिस्कस.
okay. I have already followed. Yes, I will. Yes. Yes. Any other member
Because
who have question?
all these forms etc have to be seen exactly क्या चल रहा है. तो वो फॉर्म देख के कभी भी सर मेरा आप you can share my details if any members have any query pertaining to these forms etc, in what column what has to be filled, okay, that we can that they are free to talk to me anytime, sir.
Okay, okay. Yes, Hiren Rangane want to ask question. Yes, you can ask by unmuting yourself. Hello. Hiren Rangani?
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Hello. I am audible.
Yes, yes. Yes, audible.
Yes sir, you are
सर
audible.
एक्सपोर्ट रिफंड के लिए मैं क्वेरी है सर. हेलो.
Yes.
Sir बताया, we can hear you sir.
एक्सपोर्ट रिफंड में हम GSTR 1 फाइल करते हैं सर. उसमें हम FOB वैल्यू प्लस फ्रेट प्लस इंश्योरेंस जो टोटल होता है वो सेल में कंसीडर करते हैं. ओके.
जी सर.
मगर हम जब हम रिफंड अप्लाई करने जाते हैं तभी वो लोग FOB वैल्यू ही कंसीडर करते हैं. तो उसके वजह से क्या होता है, रिफंड जो इनपुट है वो प्रोपोर्शनेटली कम हो जाता है. तो उसके वजह से हमारी, तो वो एक्चुअली करेक्ट है या फिर वो गलत कैलकुलेशन?
देखिए सर क्या है इसमें क्या है सर, ये जो वैल्यूएशन रूल्स है ना, जीएसटी के जो वैल्यूएशन रूल्स है, ये वैल्यूएशन रूल्स कहाँ से लिए हुए? ये कस्टम से लिए हुए.
ओके.
अब इसमें क्या कर रहा है ये, कस्टम्स में जब आप शिपिंग बिल फाइल करते हो तो उसमें एक इनवॉइस वैल्यू जाती है, एक एफओबी वैल्यू जाती है.
ओके.
कस्टम्स के सारे इंसेंटिव्स, कस्टम्स के जितने भी इंसेंटिव है, पहले ड्रॉबैक होता है या MEIS SCIS होता है या एडवांस लाइसेंस होता है EPG, वो सब बेनिफिट एफओबी वैल्यू पे देते हैं. कस्टम्स देता है, ठीक है. जीएसटी का जो वैल्यूएशन रूल्स है, जब जीएसटी आप किस पे चार्ज करते हो? ट्रांजैक्शन वैल्यू पे. What is your transaction value? The whole value. Your whole value is a transaction value, na? You are charging from your customer complete amount. Customer is paying you complete amount.
Yes.
When that is a value under GST, and when that is a transaction value, they should not catch the amount of FOB value. Okay, that is wrong practice they are following. But unfortunately, nobody is challenging this. This is a wrong practice. Why to restrict my refund on FOB value when I am paying GST on full value? I am paying GST on the whole transaction value, right? Yes. For purpose of giving me refund, you are restricting it. That's incorrect. Either you apply same for both ways. Either you clearly says you pay GST only on the value of goods, not on freight and insurance component, right? When you are charging GST on full value, there is no requirement of reducing my refund claim to the extent of FOB value. That is incorrect.
Okay, thank you, sir.
CA Sanjay Patel, you have also raised the hand. Yes, you can ask questions by unmuting yourself.
हेलो.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि कोई कैपिटल गुड्स अंडर EPCG में अगर आता है एंड देन मैन्युफैक्चर फिनिश गुड्स का एक्टिविटी अभी पेंडिंग है, तो यूनिट्स के IGST जो पेड किया EPCG कैपिटल गुड्स वो रिफंड ले सकते हैं बिफोर द एक्सपोर्टिंग गुड्स?
सर आप रिफंड ले सकते हो अंडर व्हाट? अंडर अनयूटिलाइज्ड ITC.
No, that the whatever the IGST paid on capital goods.
Sir, on inward side, you have paid IGST on capital goods. That
Yes.
has come into your credit, right?
Okay.
You will claim refund when you either export your finished goods,
Okay.
right? So without exporting, you cannot claim refund, any refund, whether of EPCG or input.
તમે કયા હેડમાં સર રિફંડ ક્લેમ કરશો? ક્વેશ્ચન એ છે.
So for
Okay.
claiming
Okay.
refund itself, sir, there has to be an activity of export.
Okay.
You can, sir, if your question is you can avail credit, answer is yes, you can avail credit. As soon as the goods reaches at your place, you can avail credit. Okay, refund you
Okay.
can claim only when you export your finished goods.
Okay.
There also there's a problem that formula doesn't take care of capital goods. That is contrary to law. It doesn't take care of capital goods when it comes to refund of unutilized credit. But when you are paying IGST, on finished goods, you can very well utilize your credit and claim refund.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Sir, regarding the time limit of refund application, we have any notification issued by government yet or not?
Sir, for time period, the law itself provides for relevant date. Okay, it says 2
Yes,
years from relevant date.
2 years from the relevant.
And relevant date for various situations, there is a various relevant date. Law itself
But sir,
provides a relevant date for each transaction.
But sir, for this pandemic of COVID-19, can we have any
For
relief
that,
in
they
this
have
or
already
not?
extended, sir. Sir, for pandemic, in any case, Supreme Court decision has come, which clearly says all the compliances, all the return, all these compliances where time period is there, that stand extended.
Okay, sir, okay.
In fact,
Sir,
for these merchant ending transaction, there was a time period also that within this much time goods has to be exported. For that also they came out separate extension.
Yes.
Though uniformly court has granted extension for all replies, for all appeals, for all compliances, that extension is there. There's a Supreme Court decision. I will share with you that decision.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Sir, in case of partial refund sanction, what is the procedure for regrading the remaining ITC into the electronic credit ledger? In case of partial
Sir,
refund,
ideally, it
yes,
should
sir,
come
yes.
automatically, sir. To the extent
But,
they rejected,
what we have experienced in particular Surat, that they are not crediting in our credit ledger. Since the last 1 year, we have seen so many cases. They have not credited yet.
oh, sir, we should insist and we should write a letter, clearly write a letter to officers. After 1, 2, 3 reminders, we should approach court. Sir, they are not recrediting it. My amount is blocked.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And major problem is for those people who are paying in cash. If they are paying their GST,
Yes,
outward
sir,
GST
yes,
in
yes.
cash, for them it's a bigger problem. Sir, thoda
Yes,
contest karna
and-
padega. If anyone is facing big problem, then now High Court is also good. High Court is giving relief.
But what has happened because of this small cases, a small amount of refund and small amount.
I understand, sir.
Very difficult.
And this is also, sir, and this is also system problem. Officer will say, sir, मैंने तो कर दिया है, system में कहीं रुका हुआ है.
Kahin ruka, yes, sir. We can only write through the association or chamber of commerce.
Right.
Sir, another question: is there any benefits available from FTP to export of service in the field of information technology?
SEIS for export of services.
SEIS.
I'm sorry. Any exporter of services is entitled for SEIS benefit under Chapter 3 of Foreign Trade Policy. I repeat,
Okay.
there's a difference of export of services under Foreign Trade Policy and export of services as defined under GST. There may be a situation service is not export of service under GST. Still, it can qualify as an export of service under Foreign Trade Policy, and assessee may be entitled for SEIS script. That will be to the extent of 2% or 3% or 5% of value of export of.
Okay, yes, Yogesh Italia, now you can.
Hello, sir. आई एम ऑडिएबल?
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir,
yes.
you are audible.
एक्सपोर्टर है सर, वो जीरो रेटेड गुड्स एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं और ड्यूटी ड्रॉबैक क्लेम कर रहा है, तो रिफंड अनयूटिलाइज आईटीसी है वो पैकेजिंग गुड्स की, तो क्लेम कर सकते हैं उसमें?
सर कर सकता है। जीएसटी आने के बाद में इन्होंने क्या किया, पहले प्री जीएसटी जो ड्रॉबैक होता था ना, वो ड्रॉबैक में 2 शेड्यूल होते थे। अब ड्रॉबैक एक्साइज कंपोनेंट और कस्टम्स कंपोनेंट दोनों का लेते थे, और दूसरा ऑप्शन था जिसमें केवल कस्टम्स कंपोनेंट ड्रॉबैक ले सकते थे। तो उस समय ये कंडीशन होती थी कि जिस बंदे ने एक्सपोर्ट करते समय ड्रॉबैक लिया है कंपोजिट रेट का, मतलब एक्साइज का और कस्टम्स दोनों का ड्रॉबैक लिया है अगर, तो वो रिफंड नहीं ले सकता। उस समय वो कंडीशन हुआ करती थी। जीएसटी आने के 3 महीने बाद रेट कॉमन थी, जीएसटी में भी ऐसा था ड्रॉबैक। उसके बाद में इन्होंने केवल एक ही रेट रखी ड्रॉबैक की, और वो केवल कस्टम्स कंपोनेंट है। तो अब अगर कोई भी एक्सपोर्टर ड्रॉबैक में एक्सपोर्ट करता है तो वो रिफंड ले सकता है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है।
तो सर इसमें हम डेक्लेरेशन देते हैं 54 सबसेक्शन 3 क्लोज 3 का, तो देने की कोई जरूरत रहती है?
सर वो जरूरत नहीं है। वो क्या किया है, फॉर्म चेंज नहीं किया इन्होंने। लॉ तो चेंज कर लिया, फॉर्म चेंज नहीं किया, तो वो फॉर्म में वो डिक्लेरेशन कंटिन्यू रह रही है, बाकी उसका कोई मतलब नहीं है।
ओके सर, थैंक यू।
थैंक यू सर।
Okay, sir. Now we are going through concluding the session because we are already time bar. Now I request our Deputy Convener C. Arun Virdia for the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ketan bhai. Thank you, Manish sir. I hereby thanks Manish bhai Jain for sharing his valuable and extreme knowledge with us. And there are many doubts in terms of refund, and there is many practical difficulties we are facing by the and which is his practical difficulties are because of law, because of interpretation of law, because of some misunderstanding of working and laws between officers and you are very well share your knowledge and expertise with us, which is clear many doubts of our members. And we wish in future also you have shared your extreme knowledge with us and give some suggestion to our members for expand their practice and these type of things. And in this pandemic situation, you are available with us when give your valuable time. I hereby thanks to you by heart and from on behalf of all the members of our study circle. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you very
Thank you
much,
for
sir.
inviting.
Thank you
It was great, good, very good experience. It was a privilege for us to be associated, to be talking to such intelligent people as I mentioned. And we hope that we'll be continuously in touch. Let's work more for our profession.
Thank you very much, sir. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.